And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed. To you it shall be for food. Genesis 1:29. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. Psalm 78:25. Everyday Manna with Lisa.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna. Today we are going to make a kind of a mock filet mignon using some hamburger. We're going to wrap it in bacon. It's going to be delicious. Then to go alongside that, we're going to have some Parmesan roasted potatoes. And then for dessert, we are going to have a lemon pound cake. And that's actually where we're going to get started because this needs to bake for a while, about an hour, a little over an hour. So let's get started on our pound cake. Now, I love pound cake. And my favorite pound cake is just a plain pound cake. My sister actually makes it, and we call it Jonesy's pound cake because it was her neighbor that lived with her before she passed away. It was her recipe, and it's fabulous. So this is kind of a takeoff of that. My second favorite flavor is lemon. So that's what we're going to make is the lemon pound cake. Now, you don't have to use the big stand mixer like I'm using, but it does make it a little easier. If you don't, then you will just need one of the little hand beaters. In the bowl, now this is a pound cake, I have got 1.5 sticks of butter, and I'm going to add some sugar. This is just regular granulated sugar. And I'm going to cream those two together. I'm going to start it on low. And we're going to let the butter and the sugar work together until they're lightened up. And what happens is the sugar crystals cut through the butter and make it light and airy and whipped. You want to make sure that your butter is at room temperature so that it's softened enough to do this. If it's hard, it just doesn't work. It's got to be at room temperature. Once you start seeing it, do like this, turn your mixer up. I've got it on my mixers on like 4. These stand mixers, and this particular one is a KitchenAid. They are a little bit of an investment. You can catch them on sale. But mine that I have at home, I've had for 22 years, and it is still going strong. Got it for our wedding, and it's still going strong. So they are, a couple $100, but you cannot beat the KitchenAid, in my opinion. Now, once that starts getting whipped and lightened up, you see how it has started just in here, how it's lighter. Let me show you. Let me turn it off just a second. You can see that it's just much lighter in consistency and it's fluffier. Then we're going to add our eggs, one at a time. I have 4 eggs. One of my yolks broke, but that's okay. One at a time. And then once that egg is beaten in and incorporated, add another one. 4 large eggs. And another one. And then finally the 4th one. Let them go for just a few seconds. Now, when you're using these kind of mixers, you will need to scrape down your sides. And then mix it together. And it's so light and fluffy and airy, and that's exactly what you want. Let it go for just a second, and then we'll do our dry ingredients. Okay. You will also need I'm using a bundt pan, but you can use a tube pan. You can use a loaf, like 2 loaf pans. I like it in the bundt shape. And you want to make sure that you either use the nonstick spray with flour or butter and flour your pan. Even though this is nonstick, you still want to do that. Now, this is a cup of buttermilk. And this is some cake flour, some baking soda, and some salt. And I'm just going to whisk that all together. Then I'm going to turn this on low. Don't turn it on high or you'll be sorry because you'll be wearing all this mixture. We're going to incorporate this a little bit at a time. We're going to alternate between the dry and the wet, which is the buttermilk. So just add, you know, maybe a third of this. Let me get my spatula here. And then when that's all the dry is incorporated, add a little bit of your buttermilk and repeat the process. Add some flour mixture. Cake flour just makes a lighter cake. If you don't have cake flour, you can use all-purpose flour minus a couple of tablespoons and then substitute cornstarch. In like 2 tablespoons of cornstarch to 3 cups of flour minus 2 tablespoons to make three cups. And just whisk that together and that'll lighten it up. But I like cake flour for this recipe. Just makes a lighter, fluffier cake. I'm going to add the rest of my dry. It is very important that you do this in stages. Don't dump all the flour in and then all the buttermilk in. Do it in stages. It'll give you a lighter, fluffier cake. All right, now, remember this is a lemon pound cake. I'm going to scrape down my sides a little bit here, just a little bit, and get any of the flour that gets stuck on the top of this thing. It's messy, but that's okay. And then I'm going to add some lemon extract. Now, we're going to make a glaze for this in just a little bit using some real lemons. But right now, I'm going to add about a teaspoon, maybe a little more, of lemon extract, because I really like the flavor of lemon, as you know. Just going to incorporate that and the rest of that flour that we scraped off, and that's it. Then we're going to put that in our prepared cake pan. Take your beater off and scrape off, you know, some of that, as much of that as you can get. Smells so good. Smells so good. I just like to take my spatula and give it one final little stir. 350 degrees, preheated oven. Evenly put your batter. This is a thicker batter. Remember, this is a pound cake. Evenly put your batter in your pan. And then smooth out the top. Smells so good. I love pound cake. Probably my favorite cake. I like it for breakfast too. I know you shouldn't eat sweets for breakfast, and most of the time I don't, but sometimes, boy, slice of pound cake with a cup of coffee, ooh, so good. Especially if you put some berries on it, which we're going to do at the end to serve. Smooth it out, 350 degrees for about an hour. And then what we'll do is I'll show you how to test to see if it's done. I'm going to clean up my mess, and when I come back, we're going to get started on our potatoes. I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, now our pound cake is baking, and we're going to get started on our potatoes. Now, in this little small pan, I have melted 1 stick of butter, and I'm going to divide it between the 2 smaller sheet pans here. You could use 1 big one or 2 little ones. Wouldn't matter, just something. And I have lined them with parchment paper, just for nonstick purposes. Just kind of spread that out a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to have a little butter on all the sides. Now, in this pan, I have some shredded Parmesan cheese and some pepper. I'm going to add some salt and then just a little bit of all-purpose flour. The reason for the flour is to help to coat the potatoes. I'm just going to mix that up, you know. I'm going to move this up here so I can work a little better. And I've got some potatoes, just Idaho potatoes, that I have peeled and cut into quarters. And I'm just going to roll that. Well, actually, I'm going to put it on the butter first. Forgot that step. And then coat it with some of the Parmesan mixture. And then put them on the baking sheet. You could also just coat the potatoes with a little oil if you wanted, or some nonstick cooking spray even, just something to kind of gather a little bit of that flour and Parmesan mixture. You don't need a lot of the Parmesan on there. You could do it this way. I'll show you how to do it this way. And then just coat all of these potatoes. You could either cut them into thick slices or wedges like I've done. However, whatever shape you want to do them is fine. Or you can roll them in the butter either way. It doesn't matter. Whatever's easier for you. You can do them either way. You just want to roll them in there. You could add any herb you wanted to this. If you wanted to put some rosemary. Rosemary and potatoes go very well together, and I forgot to roll those. You can tell when you forget because it doesn't stick as well. They're not totally covered. They just have a little bit on there, as you can see, which is what you want. We'll just do a few here to show you on camera how we do that. And you're just going to continue with the rest of your potatoes. Now we've got our potatoes all coated, and I've got just a little bit of cheese left. We're not going to waste that. We'll just take a little bit, and you know, anybody that looks like he could use a little more cheese, we'll just put that on there. They look pretty good to me. I love these things. Oh, how I love them. And that's it. Then you can take, if you want to, and drizzle it with a little bit of olive oil, or spray it, again, if you want to cut down on the fat, spray it a little tiny bit on top with the nonstick spray. That just helps it to brown. You want to roast these at about 375 degrees, or 325 degrees for about 30 to 40 minutes until they're golden brown and they're tender throughout. So I'm going to take a quick break, clean up. When I come back, we're going to work on our mock filet mignon. I'll be back in just a second. Alrighty, now everything is cooking. The potatoes are in the oven, the pound cake is in the oven, and we're going to get started on our main course. And this is actually going to cook in the oven too. This is a stovetop free meal. In this dish, I have some lean ground beef. Now I like the 80% lean for burgers because you need that little bit of fat in there to add the flavor. If you want to use something leaner, go ahead, but I like the 80%. Here I have a baking sheet lined with parchment just for ease of cleanup, and then I have just a baking rack here that I have sprayed with non-stick spray just to kind of keep everything from sticking. Now, to my beef, I am going to add just boil in the bag rice, some Worcestershire sauce, some garlic, just a little bit of minced garlic, and some salt and pepper. And then we're going to add some onion that I'm going to just dice up pretty fine. because we don't want it to, to be raw in the patties. This is a Vidalia onion because they're in season, but if they are not in season, you can use whatever. A green onion. You could even chop up some green onions, or you could use a white onion, a yellow onion, a red, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just some kind of an onion flavor. You could even use chives if you wanted to. That would be fine. So I'm going to take a knife, and I'm just going to mince this kind of fine. And notice I have switched to a plastic board because I'm actually going to need to shape these on my board, and I don't want my wooden cutting board contaminated. If you ever do put raw meat on your wooden cutting boards, make sure that you sanitize it with some like bleach diluted with water, like a tablespoon of bleach to a quart of water. Spray on there to sanitize and kill any germs. It's a good idea to do that ever so often anyway. But I'm just going to mince this kind of fine. The pieces I can actually hold on to, that is. You could actually do this in your little food processor if you wanted to. Okay? And then if you wanted it to be a little finer, let me throw those pieces away. You could take your knife and cut through if you wanted to. Let me show you a little quick little hint. Underneath the board, it'll slide if you're not careful on your countertops. So what I do is put one of those gripper, that you open lids with, and put it under my board, and it really does keep it stable for you. So I'm going to add my onion to my beef mixture. Clean hands, cook's best tool. Don't over mix it, just mix it till it's all incorporated. The Worcestershire, the salt and the pepper, and the rice. The rice just kind of adds a little bulk to it and a little flavor. Obviously, this is not filet mignon, but what's going to make it mock filet mignon? So we're going to wrap it in some bacon. Just a minute. Don't overmix. Just get it to where it's incorporated. You could also grill these if you wanted to. We're not going to, but you could. Then you want to take some of your mixture. Make sure that your patties are all about the same size. Gently. Now don't take your hand and smash down on this hard. What you're doing is you're compacting the fibers in the meat, and it makes it tough. Take your fingers, press a little indent in there. What that does is as it cooks, it puffs out and it stops that dome shape that you get on burgers sometimes. Then we're going to take a piece of bacon, and we're going, so I need to make it a little smaller. Little bit of bacon. Wrap it around there. Take a toothpick. Lay you out some toothpicks before you start messing with the raw meat. And then just take your toothpick. You see how I've just gone through the edges of the bacon? And then transfer your patty onto your baking sheet. And you want to do this with all of these and wrap each one in some bacon. And then place it on your baking sheet. I love these. They're so good. Your oven needs to be at about 350. So about the time that your pound cake comes out, you can put your bacon in. You absolutely could use, or your mock filet mignons, you could use turkey bacon if you wanted to. Might need to use a couple of toothpicks. The only thing that you need to be careful of is to make sure that before you serve this, you remove those toothpicks. So I'm just going to keep pattying these out, put them in a 350-degree oven, and they're going to bake for about 30 minutes until they're cooked all the way through. Then when I come back, we're going to make the glaze for the pound cake, and then the best part, we are going to eat. now dinner is done. Here are the mock filet mignons. And what I did was like the last 5 minutes, I turned on the broiler and I brushed them with just any kind of steak sauce that you like. I happen to use one I love called Country Bob's, but you could use A1, Heinz 57, whatever kind of steak sauce that you like. And let it broil for just a minute, and that just kind of caramelizes that top. They are really good. And then there is your mock filet mignon. Now remember, I told you before you serve them, find the toothpick and take that out so no one eats that. There's my timer. And, you know, gets choked on it. You don't want that. And then here are our Parmesan potatoes. Remember, we put them on the lined baking sheet, and you'll see why when you look down on that pan, because the cheese kind of, these are warm enough or cool enough I can touch. You see how that cheese just kind of, you know, drips down on there and brown? Don't throw that away. That is wonderful. Some of them will have this little crispy edge on there. Oh, so good. So good. So here you go. There is a quick, easy meal that you can cook any day of the week. Remember, you could also put those on the grill if you wanted to. But wonderful, wonderful dinner for you and those that you are cooking for. Thank you for joining with me, and I will see you next time on Everyday Manna.
Thank you for watching Everyday Manna with Lisa. This program is made possible by viewers like you. Your support is continually needed to keep Christian programming on the air. Please send your best financial gift to Living Faith Television in care of Everyday Manna, P.O. Box 1867, Abingdon, Virginia 24212.